welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary, Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And man, it felt good to put my back in that intro. It's been a long time since you've heard that velvety voice that makes all of you rejoice. But it ain't about me. It's about NXT. And I gotta say, I enjoyed tonight's episode. Tonight's episode seemed to have a sense of purpose. We got character progression for some performers, storyline progression on the whole as we head towards NXT TakeOver Chicago. There is one tragedy that I'm not looking forward to talking about, but we will get to that later. But on the whole, I had fun with this episode of NXT tonight. Partner, what'd you think of it?
Very curious what this tragedy is that you speak of, but I'm sure we'll talk about it eventually. But yeah, I thought this NXT was solid. To be perfectly honest, we probably could have gotten back to the NXT reviews a week or two ago, but we came up with a rule that it was a 4-week period after each takeover that we wouldn't do it, and we're just going to stick by that. I think maybe in the future, when we have one of these sort of weird instances where it's a really short between takeovers, we might want to get back to reviewing them a little bit sooner. But still, I feel like we chose a really good NXT to come back to reviewing them on, because this was a really fun show. Like you said, the sense of purpose definitely felt like it was more there in this show than it has been in the last couple weeks. And I mean, yeah, man, let's get into our first segment.
Our first segment being Heat of the Night. No heats of the night tonight. Didn't really have a problem with this show. And yeah, so I'm good. What about you?
I mean, yeah, I'm honestly, I'm surprised that you didn't have any, because you got done talking about how there was some kind of a tragedy earlier. So,
well, honestly, just to come out with it, I'm referring to Ember Moon's injury, because I think we saw the spot tonight where that was caused.
That caused a legit injury? I thought that was a work.
I believed it did. I mean, unless somebody can tell me something to the contrary, I thought I had read that she got injured from it. Now, if not, but here's the thing.
Is it possible that you read that on WWE.com and it is a work?
I mean,
or alternatively, that the site that you did read it on got it off WWE.com and treated it as real, even if it might have been a work?
Now, that is possible, and the only thing that kind of gives credulity to that sentiment is that Ember even tweeted yesterday, the only thing you'll be calling me in response to Asuka is future women's champion, so it seems like she's promoting Chicago. At least that's how I took it. But I don't know. That bump looked nasty, though, regardless. Yeah. And, like, that's why I do want to talk about it later. But, yeah, as far as content goes, because we have to separate stuff like that from content, nothing offensive here, nothing bad here. I quite enjoyed it. And you said you were good, too. So do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, yeah, the bump that she took out the turnbuckle corner was freaking sick. And I gotta tell you, when Asuka was just gonna throw her into the corner, I thought she was just gonna take like a shoulder on the ring post bump, and then I see her just fly all the way out and land on the floor. It's like, wow.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was
bad.
That was crazy.
And dude, like, that's the thing. Another thing that made me believe it was like legit. And I know we're gonna get like into the battle royals of later, but like she was crying, like holding that shoulder, banging the floor, like crying, like Jesus Christ, is my pain gonna end? And why is this happening to me? And it tore my fucking heart apart. I ain't gonna front. This isn't a Johnny Scumbag thing or anything like that. It tore my insides up. Seeing that was so uncomfortable. But again, we'll get more in depth to that later. With that, since you said you don't have anything else to add, let us get right into our NXT review. And partner, how do we open this baby up?
I mean, before we do get into this, if I had to say that I have a nitpick for the night, it's that Candice LeRae was in this match and they didn't even really mention anything like she was any kind of a big deal at all. They just kind of brushed over it like, oh yeah, there's Candice, she just got eliminated, whatever.
Yeah, Yeah, it's funny because when I heard that Candace was going to be debuting on this episode, I half expected, right? Like, this was the scenario in my head. You have all the women that we're accustomed to, and even, like, the lesser names that haven't been that exposed, but that, like, they're in the system, in the ring, and then Regal comes out and says, oh, we have, like, this last-minute addition, and then it's Candice LeRae, and commentary is like, oh, man, it's Candice, but that didn't happen. She just seemed like assimilated with everybody else.
Another head in the crowd.
Another head in the crowd, yeah. So I'm with you. That was definitely a bit of a head scratcher. So
yeah, that's really the only problem I had with pretty much this entire show, though. So we can get right into it, and we open this show with a match: Killian Dane versus Danny Burch, and this kind of felt like one of those old school NXT exhibition matches where it's kind of a guy that they're trying to get over, trying to establish, going against kind of a lower card guy who may be considered a jobber, but still manages to get some offense before getting murdered.
Yeah. I mean, credit to Danny Burch. He tried, although the number one rule of the Scum Squad, never try, and this is what happens. You get utterly destroyed. Killian Dane just imposing his will on the situation. Very dominant match, and that's another thing, too. I'm glad we returned on this episode, but this was a very weird kind of structure in terms of matches, because what were there, like 4 matches on this card? And I feel like 3 of them were really just very dominant showings, and then you got the Battle Royal. So all 3 that weren't the Battle Royal to me were either like modified or glorified squash matches or just plain squash matches. And yeah, Killian Dane was dominant here. He wins with like his one-winged angel release. He doesn't do it into like the pin. He does the pin separate, and yeah, he was very dominant in this match.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was killing it in this match. He was really just wrecking Danny Burch's face, but that's about to be expected. Danny Burch hasn't really been established yet. I do feel like Danny Burch will kind of be a guy that gets a push in the future. He's kind of in that pre-artiste gimmick Aiden English stage right now, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like he's a guy that's just working matches right now, but maybe if they take any interest, like he'll get a gimmick down the road, and I'd be very interested to see what he could do with it. I still think, and I remember saying this a long time ago, that I would actually be intrigued by the prospect of him doing or being in a tag team with Oney Lorcan, because I feel like they kind of have that similar style about them. And then, both bald and, they got that shit working on. But, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to give Danny Burch something, I say saddle him up with somebody, get him in the tag team division. So.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I don't really know. Unless they would go, like, really over-the-top gimmicky. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. You never know with NXT, like, what's to come for anybody. But, yeah, so that was that match. Killian Dane was dominant. I have expected Eric Young to cut a post-match promo addressing the Ty Dillinger situation. That never happened. So, yeah, that was pretty much the match. Do you have anything else you want to say about it?
No, man. Let's move on. Up next, we had a Patrick Clark vignette, a.k.a. the Velveteen Dream.
Now, dude, I know you're really big on Patrick Clark. I mean, I like him too, but you really seem to be into the Velveteen Dream stuff when we've actually seen it. What did you think of this vignette, and do you think this means that he's actually going to be more of a regular on NXT now?
Oh, yeah. I love Patrick Clark. He's so good. He's so charismatic. He's got an amazing look. Superb athlete. He's like 21 or 22 years old. He is just like Matt Morgan used to call himself the blueprint. To me, Patrick Clark is the blueprint of who I want in NXT being that prospect. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The guy's got everything going for him at just the right time. You figure he's young. He's got a great look. And I mean, no offense to the gimmick itself, but Velveteen Dream, like when we saw Patrick Clark on Tough Enough, like his disposition and everything seems very antithetical to a gimmick like this, and yet he's wholeheartedly embraced it. I think he's got all the qualities and the traits that he could blow up, because he's got that Cody Rhodes quality that I love, that when you're given a gimmick, no matter how absurd on its face, you're going to throw the entirety of your being into it, and you're going to make it work. And this vignette was just proof of that. I really am curious where this will go, and that's the thing. I love people like this on NXT, and we've talked about this before, because NXT in its current age is dominated by the Rudes and the Strongs and the Cassius Ohnos and now the McIntyres most recently.
Basically, NXT right now is dominated by guys who already have TV experience outside of NXT.
Exactly. And so when I see a Patrick Clark come along and you're giving me this Velveteen Dream, like, I want to embrace it too, because this to me is old school NXT. And I always talk about, like, oh, if this was the old age, you know, when the guys like Bo Dallas were the champions and the Cox the Walk, I could see a Patrick Clark being NXT champion, and I want to have some belief that guys like that can attain those heights again. So I'm very curious what they're going to do with him. Again, I think he's really hit his stride as far as everything coming together for him that needs to come together. It's just a matter of pulling the trigger and being promoted, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, man, we're talking about a 6'3", 225-pound ripped athlete with a passion for pro wrestling. Like, it doesn't get better than that. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, he's charismatic as hell too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And so I'm actually excited for this. No joke. Like, I always love when a new act is kind of coming. And we've seen this before, but now I feel like hopefully they're really going to push it aggressively. And the rest is really up to Patrick Clark. And if that is the case, that means he'll get a shit ton of mileage out of this. And that's the biggest compliment I could give him. So
yeah. Patrick, to me, Patrick is the next guy in the lineage of like your No Way Jose's, the guys who no one ever really heard of before NXT. Maybe they had some traction on the indies, but not really a big name. And then they go to NXT, they get a gimmick, they have the natural charisma and the size, and they get to shine and they get made into a star. I just hope that both Jose and Patrick get that main event opportunity in NXT before the call-up.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because is Jose injured right now? Because I'm feeling really bad for him that he's just been ghosted. Like,
I have no clue. I don't know if he's injured or not. He might be. He probably. Typically, when we notice somebody missing for a long time, it's because they're injured and we just don't know about it. So I'm going to assume Jose's injured.
Well, I hope he gets better soon and he gets back in the hunt, because I'll tell you, I mean, that's the one good thing about a heel Rude title reign, or just a heel having the belt, is that you got young guys like Jose that could step up. But he's not in the picture right now. Patrick Clark hopefully will be soon. And yeah, I'm excited for this. So let's move on. What's next?
Well, next we had our second match of the night, Heavy Machinery versus, let's be real, Skinny Jobber 1 and Skinny Jobber 2.
Yeah, oh man, this team, because I really did not think Heavy fucking Machinery of all people would be such a hot topic of discussion, because Paul apparently in chat loves them, and as James made me aware tonight, he does not care for them at all. So where I'm going to start, actually, is I want to get your opinion on these guys, especially given that we got to see them work the mic a little bit in the post-match. So given all of that, I mean, what are your impressions of Heavy Machinery here now that we've gotten a bit used to them by now?
It's funny because Paul loves these guys and James hates them, and James especially hates Otis Dozovic. And the ironic thing is I'm somewhere in between, and I like Otis more than Tucker.
Yeah. See, to me, and this is where James is going to be like, see, John, this is why no one loves you, and all those other insults that really cut me so deep inside. You know, I think Otis has got a very colorful personality.
Yep.
And but here's the thing, though, not to shortchange Tucker, I think these guys work very well off of each other. Because, you know, I saw...
I'm going to go ahead and say this is like the second coming of American Alpha, where Otis is Gable and Tucker is Jordan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the thing is, like, I saw a comparison where I was watching it, like you and I were watching it in the same stream, and somebody said, like, this is like a modern day Road Warriors in the sense that one guy's really coherent on the mic, and then the other guy, he's just got the sound bites, and he's like out of his mind. Like, he's just pumped. He wants to just hurt people. And yeah, I think that's definitely a good parallel. As far as the match goes, I mean, these guys have got their double team offense down. They know who they are. They're guys that throw their weight around, you know, quite literally, using it offensively. And it works. You know, the crowd's into it. And, you know, they seem really behind these guys. And I actually really liked the post-match promo. They own that they're big guys. They own that, you know, when they're at the gym and they're lifting weights, they like to, you know, take breaks and get steaks. What was it? Steak and weights? What was that?
Steaks and weights, baby.
Steaks and weights. And see, already And that was from Otis that he said that,
Yep.
and already immediately in the same promo, the crowd was chanting it. So, you know what? Regardless of if you hate the team from in-ring or maybe you feel like one shortchanging on the mic, if they've already got catchphrases going because they did that and then they did beef, like we've got all this beef, and, you know, they're just ready to take it. They're ready to take the division by storm. And again, much like Patrick Clark, you know, whole Velveteen Dream thing, I like this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love DIY, and I love their story, and I love that they're doing this. But I'll be honest, I'll be looking forward to getting that fresh meat when it's all said and done, and then we're going to really see what Heavy Machinery is capable of. I'm excited for them, and, you know, hearing Otis just come out, you know, with the stakes and weights and all that, and then Tucker Knight being the more articulate one saying, you know, we want the biggest buffet. You know, we've had the appetizers. We want the main course. That main course is Authors of Pain.
And I like that because whether it actually happens at the next takeover or not, it plants the seed in your mind. And now I want to see Heavy Machinery versus AOP because of the size matchup.
I do too. I think it could be a great powerhouse tag team matchup. And I honestly,
like, I want to see that moment where AOP crash into one of these guys and don't knock them over and realize that this isn't going to be like anything else they've ever faced before.
Right. And, you know, it's funny because I want to point out James in chat here. He said, I may warm up to them as this is my first time watching them, but to me their gimmick is that they're fat. And see, the interesting about that is he's not necessarily wrong, but where I like it better than I did when they did the whole Bull Dempsey storyline with Bullfit is that I think these guys, especially, again, Otis, I think they're more endearing to me personally.
See, no, I don't even agree with that. I don't think that their gimmick is that they're fat. To me, that they're big guys that can do whatever they want with their opponents. So rather than trying to be serious and winning, which they're probably used to by now because they can do it against whoever they want, they have a little fun with their opponents and they kind of screw with them a little bit.
So you think they've got like the same build and the kind of air as like any generic monster character, except the personality has got that flair to it and that charisma to it that they're able to have fun and have a good time and not be like, "Grr, I'm angry or
to
I'm
me,
evil."
this is where I'm not necessarily as enthusiastic about Paul. My one apprehension about this team is that they feel very one note right now. Because to me, as soon as you put these guys in a serious situation, my concern is that they might just straight up not be very good in the ring. And we wouldn't know that by now because we've only seen them do like 4 moves maybe. But to me, the concern is you put them in a serious situation, put them against the Authors of Pain, and yeah, it'll be a good big man match, but will it be a good match? I don't know.
I see that's going to be the interesting thing. Like, what is the depth of their abilities? Not just in ring, but as characters. Because honestly, like, I know this is going to be a crude parallel, but I'm going to try constructing it anyway. I think what really sold me, at least at the time, on Enzo and Cass is like this great act was not only did they slay on the mic, but when they had to have a serious feud with the Revival because they shattered Cass's leg, their serious promos were just as good. And they showed me that they had dimension and depth. And I think you and I are looking for the same things, you know, in those same contexts. What kind of match can they have when it's a big takeover match and you're getting extended time? Because really, thanks to the Revival and DIY, and AOP has been pulling their weight in those situations. I won't shortchange them either. Tag team wrestling has been one of the calling cards of these takeovers now. Like the NXT tag title match is something that I think is legitimately anticipated on takeover cards. That's a lot of pressure for Heavy Machinery to keep up that tradition, in my mind. And can they? That remains to be seen. We haven't seen them in that spot. And really, I would like to see, like, how much dimension do these guys have? Like, if we put them in different narrative situations, would they respond to them differently, or would they always try and, like, make light of it or whatever? So I'm very intrigued as to what the capability all around of this team really is. But yeah, it was a good show.
It's funny because James brought up Bull Dempsey, or actually James just said that they're fat guys. You brought up Bull Dempsey.
Yeah,
to me, the difference between Bull Dempsey and these guys is that Bull Dempsey's gimmick was that he was fat and out of shape and he couldn't keep up in the ring. These guys' gimmick is that they're big and they can win whenever they want, so they just kind of screw with their opponents. But the point where they both kind of meet is that they're both better suited for comedy than seriousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, like, with Bull Dempsey, if you would put Bull Dempsey up in a serious match, I wouldn't be able to kind of mentally comprehend him doing well, much less winning. Whereas with these guys, you put them in a serious match, and I'm just like, I don't think I would know how to handle it, because they would be like toying with the Authors of Pain, but I think I would be angry at the Authors of Pain for like allowing that to even happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
Because beyond just toying with scrub opponents, what do these guys have?
I don't know, and we're gonna have to find out. And that's the thing.
That's my main apprehension, is that they're very one note, and even though I'm enjoying them so far, I want more. I want progression. I want them to evolve.
See, because here's the thing. I think when you get an act, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it before we move on to our next segment, when you get an act like Heavy Machinery where you have those types of questions, there are only 3 ways that it can go in my mind. Either they meet the bar and they meet those expectations and they show, okay, we do have depth and dimension. 2, creative or whoever is freaking responsible, they step up and they write it in a way, or they present it in a way where you accentuate the positives and you hide the negatives. Or 3, you get exposed, and then it's just bad. I'm hoping they can meet expectations. If they can't, and they really don't have that much depth, and our worst fears are true, I would also have to hope as a secondary thing that NXT would be able to mask it. But I don't really know how much faith I have in that prospect. So we may see these guys get exposed in due time, but that time wasn't tonight. And we'll have to see if they really do get that big opportunity against Authors of Pain, if that'll be the moment that they either step up or choke up and they just get exposed, and we just see that maybe these guys don't have as much depth as we'd like to think that they do.
Let's ask chat what they think, guys. What do you guys think of Heavy Machinery? Do you think that they're more of a one-note act and they might get exposed soon, or do you think that there's more than what we see? Do you think that these guys are going to be kind of the next evolution in the NXT Tag Team division? Are these guys future NXT Tag Team champions?
Yeah, I'm curious what Chad thinks about that. As far as I go, could I see them as NXT Tag Team Champions? Honestly, with TM61 out of the picture, it's a stronger yes than I would have given if they were in the picture. So right now I'll give it a maybe. But a maybe that's more leaning towards yes, if I'm honest, than a no. What about you? You see them as future champions?
I think if they're going to win tag titles, it's not going to be in NXT.
Interesting. Okay.
Unless it's after a heel turn. If they turn heel at some point, I think they will win the titles then.
All right. That's very interesting. With that said, if there's anything else you want to add, we can move on.
All right, up next. What did we have up next? We had the the Bobby Roode thing, where we were getting ready to go to commercial, and then we saw Bobby Roode talking to Kona Reeves on the pre-ad bumper, and, just kind of, I guess, giving him advice, and most likely just telling him, oh, hey, man, by the way, if you want a shot at being Hideo tonight, attack him before the bell rings.
Oh man, dude, this fucking match. But yeah, Roode advising Kona Reeves, and then we do get to that match, right? And
no, then we get a DIY interview. I love these guys.
Yes.
Because they talk about Heavy Machinery having the size and being guys, and they're guys with the size to win the prize.
Yeah, but we're also guys. And
and we might not have the size, but we haven't forgotten that we're still owed a fair tag team championship rematch with the Authors of Pain. So the line to the tag titles starts behind DIY.
I really appreciated this promo, if for no other reason, it reinforces that hierarchy. Like, yes, Heavy Machinery, you may be physically impressive in this and that, but we've actually been tag team champions. We deserve a one-on-one kind of rematch with the Authors of Pain, and that's where our focus is. So yeah, I really appreciated this promo for sure.
Absolutely. I love DIY. They're so good. But then we do get to our third match, which is Kona Reeves versus Hideo Itami. And before the bell even rings, Kona attacks Hideo, which we're probably meant to assume was what Bobby Roode was suggesting he do on that pre-ad bumper. And again, it gave him the advantage early on in the match, but then over the course of the match, Hideo realizes, wait a minute, I'm Hideo Itami, and then he whips his ass.
That was the perfect articulation of the situation, and I gotta say, I fucking love Hideo. I know James loves Hideo. I think most of our chat is really like pro Hideo Itami. And that bitch slap to Kona Reeves, he slapped that man so hard, he slapped the goddamn jobber out of his mouth. I mean, I was like, holy shit. in a good way though. But I mean, that was fierce, man. He whooped that ass. I have been waiting for that for so long. Oh man, I think when Kona Reeves was toying with him, Hideo just shifted gears and he imagined Kona Reeves was Riddick Moss, and then he just beat the shit out of him. Oh, that was amazing. And then to end it with the GTS, so perfect, and the crowd was calling for it, dude. I want him versus Rude, and I'll tell you, I know it's not like a takeover preview predictions, and I'm not saying this is my prediction, but if Hideo gets in that ring with Rude, I really hope they put the title on Hideo. I think it's his time. I think you got to pull the trigger on him, and you got to go with it. But, that remains to be seen. He's got to be a contender first. But I love this match. I loved watching Hideo beat the shit out of this guy. And I could just watch Hideo beat the shit out of people all day. So, yeah, that's my review of that.
Yeah, man. I got to tell you, Hideo being back and doing his stuff and just it's so great to see that he really hasn't missed a beat. I love this dude. He really, really won me over both as a performer and as a character and really as a person during that WrestleMania, I think 24, the WrestleMania 20 or the WWE 24 on his road to WrestleMania 31, I want to say.
Yeah.
That was amazing, and I've been a huge fan of his ever since. Although, unfortunately, he's only been active for like a grand total of 3 months since that point, and that was like 25 months ago. So hopefully he's here to stick around this time. He doesn't get injured again. Keep him out of the ring with green people. And sadly, Kona is relatively green, but I want to give Kona Reeves some credit because he's getting in much better shape, I noticed, because there were months ago, maybe even a year ago or so, when he would come out, he kind of had a little bit of like a sloppy jalopy look to him. But tonight, he had the pecs going on. He's starting to tighten up a little bit, and I'm proud of the dude for putting the work in.
Absolutely. Kona Reeves is another one. He's been featured with more regularity because I feel like, didn't we see him last week as well, I thought, against Aleister Black, or was that 2 weeks before this episode tonight? Either way, I feel like we've been seeing him more. He could be another guy that just one day randomly he has this gimmick and he wins. And it's like, hey, bitches, this is me now. Deal with it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So, yeah, I mean, that's the NXT I definitely want to get back to in a way. And I look at all these acts and it makes me hopeful that maybe we can. So good stuff here from Hideo. Kona Reeves certainly did his part. And we can move on.
All right, then. Up next, we had a Drew McIntyre vignette. Pretty cool because they actually acknowledged that he was Vince's chosen one, 2009-ish. And yeah, the sick kick seems to be the new finisher, which kind of makes you wonder what Roddy's going to use as his new finisher.
I'm sure some type of backbreaker, so the Messiah will be fine. But yeah, cool vignette here from McIntyre. I enjoyed it. But that's all I got to say about that, so we can move on.
All right, guys. Up next, we had the part 2 of Who is Roderick Strong? And because we didn't review last week's episode, we might as well just talk about part 1 here as well. I love this stuff.
Dude, honestly, this feature, this spotlight on Roderick Strong was so good. I know we can't do like a new batch for an NXT talent every week, but at least like once a month, give 2 weeks maybe to a talent, or once every 3 months. Like, I'd like to see more of these is really just my point. I don't know about what volume you'd want to do it. I mean, that's up for debate. But I feel like this, because my biggest critique of Roderick Strong, he is a stud in ring, and he is a beast, and I love him for that. And we know that he can be a heel personality because of his PWG title run. But as a babyface, which is where the commitment is right now, I just never really like, what's the character? What is he? But I feel like getting to know his life story, that fosters that connection that I think every babyface needs with the crowd. Part 1 made my jaw drop with the places they went with it. Because I know, like, you can unearth a person a little bit, but I feel like they did some serious excavating into the life of Roderick Strong when they talked about, his family. I think his father had, like, a problem with alcohol, and the mother, kind of substance abuse. And at one point, like, his mother shot his father, and that was a thing. I mean, a crazy story, but by Roderick being so vulnerable and letting the walls down, and by NXT, affording us a glimpse into that, I feel like I know him better than I ever have. have. And I think that's so important if you're going to keep a guy on a babyface path. I thought this was a masterpiece, both part 1 and 2, because you really see that unity of where he was and where he is now and where he hopes to go. And I just love these. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, man, these were so good. Like, I did not expect this to be something that they would give to Roderick Strong, of all people. Like, I love Roderick from an in-ring standpoint, but I am blown away that NXT is that invested in making Roderick Strong a star that they gave him this kind of biography. Like, this was awesome.
Yeah, this was amazing. And like I said, I was so blown away by this, and I just loved the very idea of this. I want this for more performers. Hell, even the performers that we do already have an attachment to, whether it's babyface or maybe not heels. Maybe this should just be purely a babyface thing because you don't want to go liking heels, and it would make me hypocritical because I said about keeping things compartmentalized. But yeah, like I'd love to see No Way Jose get one of these. Cassius Ohno get one of these because he was away for so long, and like what brought him to come back. Really foster that connection. Hideo, man, I hope he gets one of these spotlights, if he does face Bobby Roode in the future, which that definitely seems to be where they're going. But yeah, I mean, Roderick getting one of these, I'm so glad they gave this to him. And then seeing him with his wife and his child in part 2 tonight, that just put a smile on my face. And then when he tears up at the end, when he says, if I could go back in time and tell my past self anything, and you could see him getting choked up, and I'm like, God damn, Roddy, like, I am not supposed to feel. I am me. Do you know who I am? He says, don't be afraid, and it's gonna be okay. And when you've seen part 1, and like where that comes from when he says past self and what that self endured, those words have gravity. To me, they go beyond cliche at that point. And yeah, I really, really love this, man. This is some of the best work I think NXT has done. And again, that's why I want more. I just got really greedy with it. I'm like, yeah, show me more of this.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the thing with Roddy, he's been wrestling for like 17 years now. He's been around for a really long time. And the really crazy thing is he's still like, he's younger than Hideo Itami. He's younger than Daniel Bryan. He's younger than Nakamura, Ty Dillinger, Bobby Roode, obviously. Bobby Roode, here's a crazy little thing. Bobby Roode turns 40 next Thursday.
That is crazy. That is crazy to think about. So
the
Bobby
40-year-old champion of developmental. That's a great label.
Damn. That is really something. But again, that's kind of NXT's problem at present, with these guys just oversaturating the system. I mean, again, and I would have to even apply that to Roderick. Like, I'm happy on one hand that he's getting his spot, but on the other hand, it's like, man, really just contributing to that oversaturation problem. But you know what, though? If you could foster a connection like this, it makes Roderick feel more organically like an NXT property. And, that I can always appreciate for sure.
Yeah, man. That's another discussion for another time. But yeah, Roderick Strong is only 33 years old. He'll be 34 this year, but still, the fact that he's as good as he is and as polished as he is in the ring, and the fact that they're willing to invest this much time and effort and really just in general trying to get him over as they are, that's just such a great thing to me, because they don't do this for just anyone. They didn't do this for, say, Nakamura, They didn't do this for Samoa Joe, obviously. They didn't do this for Kevin Owens. They did it for Finn Balor. Right. They did it for Hideo. But, that's an elite class of guys for Roddy to be in and in the conversation with. And I did not think that WWE would have that level of perception of this guy. And it blows my mind because he's never really been known as a mic guy. But now, with these Who is Roderick Strong vignettes, it's like we're kind of seeing that, like, he's not completely devoid of personality. He's just been trapped in a wrestling promotion that doesn't care about personality for the last 13 years.
Right.
That's the thing, man. Like, with Ring of Honor, it seems like, and it's funny because this applies to Ring of Honor and TNA. When people get out of Ring of Honor and TNA after having been there for a while, their life improves dramatically. Whether it's their skill level, whether it be in the ring or on the mic, going up dramatically, or just their perception being increased, or winning accolades everywhere they go. Once you get out of TNA or ROH, your status, your stock skyrockets. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I really especially love the point while you were speaking about, NXT doing these kind of stuff for like a very elite class and the perception of strong. I never really bothered to think about it in that perspective, but to know that this guy got out and his stock really seems to have never been higher, that to me is very impressive. And I'm curious like where they'll go with it, because maybe we are looking at a future NXT champion, if not in the immediate future, maybe just in the future, in general, maybe like a few months from now or whatever. It really just depends on how long he's going to stay in NXT and all those other factors. But man, now after something like that, wherever he goes, I'm just going to really, support him and be like, yeah, I know what he's doing it for. And so does he. So really beautiful stuff for sure.
Yeah. This whole thing with Roddy is awesome. I love that they're putting this much into him. And I love his theme song too. So that's like one more thing that I feel like they got right with him. So man, NXT might not be my favorite promotion. It's probably not even in my top 3. Actually, I know for a fact it's not in my top 3, but it's no Ring of Honor and it's no TNA. And I know some people might see that as a bad thing because they might like one of those promotions. But to me, TNA and Ring of Honor have become the ultimate sort of cement shoes.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. I mean, you already know where I sit. Number 1 promotion is Lucha. Number 2 is New Japan. And then 3, if we were to divvy up WWE, it would be SmackDown, then NXT, then Raw. But, Roddy's in a good place. He seems happy. And I wish him nothing but the best. This whole oversaturation.
Well, yeah, and see, my top 3, as noted by Cliff Mull in chat, are Lucha, then PWG, then New Japan.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny because I love PWG, and yet sometimes I do forget about them. But yeah, even reworking that, I would have to say, yeah, it's Lucha. I do still enjoy New Japan more than PWG, but then, yeah, PWG would come in third, and then the WWE divvying up that I did. So, yeah, good stuff. And what came after this?
After the Roddy stuff, we saw William Regal in his office with Bobby Roode, and Regal was just watching the Who is Roderick Strong doc, and he turns to Bobby and is just like, oh, that's an impressive young man right there, isn't it? And Bobby Roode is just like, oh yeah, I wasn't paying attention. And then Regal says, oh, I have an opponent in mind for you for NXT TakeOver Chicago. And Bobby goes on this long rant about how, Hideo really doesn't deserve a shot. And Regal's just like, so you're saying you think Hideo needs to earn a championship match with you? And he was just like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And he goes, well, that's good, because the plan right now, next week, that gentleman that we just saw, Roddy Strong, will face Hideo Itami, with the winner becoming the number 1 contender championship to face you at NXT TakeOver Chicago.
Yeah, so Hideo is 1 match away from getting an opportunity at the NXT Championship, and of course the same can be said for Roderick Strong. So should be a very interesting match next week, and I like that, we have something like that to look forward to next week on NXT. So great stuff. And then doesn't Roddy enter William Regal's office because he's like, that's my next appointment? So
yeah, he does, and we get like a stare down between him and Bobby.
Yeah, and I really, really like that. You could definitely feel the tension. Like, Roode's just thinking, man, is this the guy that I'm going to have to freaking worry about? But, yeah, I can't wait for next week. Unless you have anything to add, we can move on.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Let's move on, and we get to our final match of the night, the main event, finally. The Women's Battle Royal for number 1 contendership. See who's going to be facing Asuka at NXT TakeOver Chicago. I think there were 13 women in this, and I believe only about 8 of them got entrances. The women who got entrances were Lacey Evans, Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, Nikki Cross, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, and Ember Moon. So that's 7, not 8. So a little bit more than half the field got entrances. the women who didn't get entrances. I know that Bianca woman who's like an amazing athlete and had that video come out from the Performance Center the other day. Obviously, Candice LeRae, Kimberly, Aaliyah, Liv Morgan, and I'm missing. Oh, that big, tall Amazon lady. I think they called her name. I think they said that her name was Victoria, but I don't know if they had a last name for her or not.
I don't remember a last name either. As far as the Battle Royal goes, what did you think?
Dude, I wanted so much more from this. Like, there were people, even in like the NXT live thread on Reddit, talking about how lit this freaking Battle Royal was supposed to be, and I feel like this was so slow.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really fault you there. Really, to me, the mark of a good Battle Royal is like how many highlights it could contain, like how cool were the eliminations, or...
And to me, there weren't any highlight eliminations in this at all.
No, not really.
To me, the highlight of this match was Asuka throwing Ember Moon across the freaking stage.
Oh,
and I don't mean that in a scumbag way. I mean, like, that was the only moment rang to the time NXT went off the air that made me like open my eyes a little bit wider. That was the only moment that I was like, oh wow, that's really weird. Like, that's crazy.
Really, as far as like in the context of the Battle Royal itself, first of all, not a very good debut, at least in my mind, for Candice LeRae, and that's kind of the risk when you have a debut being, oh, you're in here with all these other bodies. But I feel like Candice really didn't do much to stand out, at least in my opinion. Honestly, the standouts, and you know I love Ember Moon to death, and I'll get to her in a second. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, again, you know, I love them working together. I loved, like, when Peyton would be close to elimination, she'd be like, Billy, and, like, you know, they just stuck so close together, which was smart. And I just feel like their heel work in this was great, and I just continue to love these two. Honestly, I'm going to be forthcoming with it. One of the best things about when Asuka's reign finally comes to an end is that I hope Billie and Peyton will be the heels that get their next crack at it when it's time for another heel champion. Because I just feel like these guys are terrific, and yeah, I love their work here. So as far as like in the Battle Royal itself, before that whole crazy finish, I feel like these guys were the standout yet again, and you know that's really great for them.
Yeah, I mean, this match was not as good as I had hoped it would be, but actually, before I even say that, did you notice how much the energy picked up when Asuka came out?
Yeah. I mean, even the crowd was like into her. Like, she didn't get a heel reaction. It just seemed like the tone completely shifted.
Well, yeah, because like I was saying, like the match itself, and even like when it came down to the final three, and the thing is, like, we know that Ruby Riott and Ember Moon and Nikki Cross can all go in the ring. Yeah. But it was so slow paced, and then Asuka comes out and she's moving fast and she's kind of dancing around like a psychopath, and she's whipping these women's asses, and all of a sudden it's like we just went from first to sixth gear in 2 seconds, and that makes me want to cheer for Asuka when she's supposed to be the heel in this whole thing.
Yeah, she's supposed to be a heel because of her sadistic style, but the thing is, she presents that sadistic style in such a way that you develop a kind of affection for it. Especially in this context, because, I mean, yeah, it was nasty as hell, and again, just tore my fucking insides up, but I could see how somebody seeing that visual of Ember Moon just being a projectile and Asuka not giving two fucks is like, holy shit, where was that this whole match? You know, and just her laying out Ruby Riott, who tried, which was hilarious in itself, and then Nikki Cross, who was just recovering from total eclipse, getting kicked in the damn head. You know, and then Asuka just saying, nobody's ready for Asuka! Nobody's ready for Asuka! And then leaving her destruction to do as it will. You know, it was crazy, dude. And the way the camera just lingers on all those bodies, like, again, complete tonal shift from the match as it was going on. Unbelievable.
Yeah, man. And you know what? I think PW Gregory in chat makes a good point. When Battle Royals start off by not having eliminations for a while, it kind of loses your attention, and maybe they could have started hotter. I think another one of the problems was that the eliminations didn't really have any impact. Like, I feel like a majority of the eliminations were somebody pushing somebody over the top rope and then having them dangle by the ropes and then them knocking them off the apron.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, like
And dude, it's not even a gender thing because I'm convinced that women would be fully capable of doing it, but it's almost like none of them wanted to take a true blue over the top rope bump in this match.
right, right. And yeah, again, as far as disappointments go, aside from like Ember Moon, like is she okay? Is she not okay? I'd love some clarity on that because that did look nasty as fuck. As far as the match itself goes, I really was disappointed with Candice. I'm like, this is you in NXT. People know who you are because of the great stuff you did in PWG, especially.
Well, and she made it to the final 6, but like, really, she was the last person seen on NXT before to be in this match.
Yeah, and like, here's the thing, Ashton. I agree with you in the sense that yes, she did make it to the final 6, and I guess that alone makes her seem like worth something, or already kind of gives her a kind of value in the company. But my thing is, if I was like that hardcore casual where the only thing like I watch is like WWE, and I've never really gone outside of that bubble, I think, oh, they got a new talent. Like, I wish they would have made her, either gave her some moments in the Battle Royal where it's like, oh man, she's really cool, or done like some kind of a piece, like a vignette or just anything. But she didn't get anything. She didn't do anything in this match to me except survive. And yeah, to me, I just got to be honest, I was underwhelmed. And, I never really like being that critical, but I hope in the weeks ahead, Candice can make more of a splash, because I am rooting for her. No doubt about it.
I mean, dude, we don't even know if Candice is going to be in any other matches. All I ever heard about was that this Battle Royal, she was going to be in this.
So maybe it was like a tryout for her, this Battle Royal. I don't
know.
Yeah.
Before we move on, we got a super chat from Cliff Amal. It was a $2 donation, and he said that Asuka is the Pentagon Junior of NXT.
Yeah, I'd agree with that to a point. Like, she just revels in destroying others, and just all that destruction in her wake tonight. And my poor
she doesn't
Bay.
get cheered because people like her. She gets cheered because people like seeing her destroy people.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much the same thing as Pentagon, so I definitely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And just hope that my Bay, Ember Moon, will be all right, and just gonna keep it together. But yeah.
Shut the hell up! My Bay got eliminated by Ember Moon tonight.
But nobody cares about your Bay, bitch. Like, who even is it? Who even is your Bay?
Aiton?
Oh,
how do you not know that by now?
Look, she doesn't matter. But yeah, she'll be all right too. She's gonna be just fine. She's probably gonna like film something with Billy Kay later. But any closing remarks about this Battle Royal or the Fallout?
No, I feel like I've already kind of said my piece on it, and I think this was actually our last segment. So if you want, we can move on to our next segment.
Yes, high spots and low shots. You know what? I'm gonna say my low shot is Asuka. And I say that because, yes, while she was dominant, she created more of a headache for herself than she may have intended, like all heels do when they do this shit. I'm really getting tired of that trope, by the way, now that I think about it. But, I'm just going to go in and lay waste to people. And by the way, if I did have one nitpick on this show, because now, like, this whole new stream of thoughts are coming in, somebody mentioned on the stream they were watching, and that was a good point, like, why did the bell ring when Asuka came out anyway? Like, shouldn't Battle Royals have that no DQ kind of thing going on? So shouldn't there have been like?
Well, I think it's because the referee did say something about how the match is over, and it might have had something to do. Did the bell actually ring when Asuka came out?
The bell rang the moment like Asuka threw Ember Moon like off the top rope onto the canvas. And
I didn't know that. I did not know that. So yeah, that was definitely just an LOL NXT moment, like when they disqualified the Ascension for being a good tag team.
I'm so glad we haven't forgotten that all this time later. Never forget the Ascension got screwed, even though it probably have no bearing on their on what they're doing right now. But regardless, yeah, that was definitely a head scratcher. But yeah, Asuka's my low shot because now she's created a bigger headache for herself in NXT Chicago. I do think, regardless of the status of Ember Moon, which I will be curious to know more about, I do think it is going to be a fatal four-way. They'll probably just swap her out for somebody if that is the case. And yeah, you go from a one-on-one match where your streak has a very good chance of being extended and your reign has a good chance of being extended to a fatal four-way where, in those mathematical terms, and as kayfabe always loves to play up, 25% odds. So yeah, rough night for Asuka, and yeah, she's my low shot. So who's your low shot?
Oh, God.
What?
Don't bring up 25% odds unless you want 10 minutes of Steiner voice, John.
Oh, no, oh, okay. Look, it was just an offhanded comment. Who is your low shot?
My low shot is Kona Reeves. Really just because he talked so much shit before this. And then he even got advice from the champ, and he got an early head start, and he still couldn't make the win.
You know, failures like that are always the most delectable to me because, like, what else could you have needed, bitch? And you still dropped the ball. So, way to go. High spot, gonna make this short and sweet. Hideo Itami, that bitch slap alone, I cannot wait for the GIFs to come out of that because I will just watch it religiously and it will never get old. So, Hideo Itami, plus, he did get put in a number one contenders match for next week. So just him even being in that great night.
Let's wrap that baby up because my high spot's Roderick Strong, the other half of that number one contenders match.
You're all right, Ashton. But yes, you're right.
Oh, snap. I love it. Yeah, Roddy is my high spot. He had an amazing showcase tonight. Anybody who sees these little mini docs on his life are instantly going to care more about him as a person and as a performer than anybody else on the roster, really. I mean, can you name like a top babyface that people would care about enough that they could be able to say that they care more about Roderick Strong at this point? Because I certainly can't. Not that Nakamura and Dillinger are on the main roster now.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how Roderick's stock has been elevated in NXT and that they've given him this, and now I'm sure he'll be more over than ever. I'm very curious the reaction he'll get next week, you know, after this whole feature's been done. And again, I'm very happy for him, and I think that's an excellent pick of a high spot. With that said, we have no additional segments for our NXT reviews, so do you have any closing remarks, Ashton?
I don't think so. I really quite enjoyed the show, and now that we're kind of through talking about it, I realize how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought this was a good outing for them. And again, we'll be covering NXT for the next few weeks in the lead up to NXT TakeOver Chicago. So this was our first review back in the books. All right, with that said, guys, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my co-owner and commentary action. Guys, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like the video if you haven't. We've got 13 people watching, only 7 thumbs up. Please leave a like on your way out. You know, the more likes you leave on the video, the more likely it is to be the top search result for NXT reviews on YouTube. And when you're the best at what you do, the top is the only place that you belong. So help us out. Leave that like. Guys, as far as all the media you can find us at, I'm not going to run through the whole gamut of it. Please just check in the description. We have everything there from our Patreon right down to the TWitWoW Facebook and subreddit. So check out everything that may pique your interest. Also, we've got our Teespring store. So if you're feeling yourself and want to get some of that TWitWoW merch, you know, that's the place to go. As far as the rest of this week, if I am not mistaken, we've got nothing tomorrow, nothing Friday.
You are mistaken. You are mistaken.
Oh, yeah, we got New Japan tomorrow, don't we?
Well, and it turns out we have New Japan tomorrow and Friday now.
Okay, all right. So Thursday and Friday, we've got New Japan.
Yeah, because there was Wrestling Dontaku happened literally this morning, and we're going to have to live react to that on Friday because there was a show that happened this past Saturday that we've been planning on live reacting to, and that'll be tomorrow.
Right. So, okay. So it was Thursday and Friday. We've got New Japan content. But then Sunday and Monday are what I'm probably thinking of with the Patreon request, correct?
Correct, yes.
Jarveris has got something. And then who else? Whose birthday is it on Monday that we're going to be celebrating with the Patreon request?
Yeah, I believe Javaris.
I thought it was 2 birthdays, and I thought Javaris was Sunday and then somebody else.
Javaris was Monday, and I want to say Mark Shoneman was Sunday.
Okay, yeah, Mark Shoneman's the other person I'm thinking of. Yeah, those will be the Patreon requests. very excited to get to those. So yeah, guys, I mean, I thought we only had Sunday and Monday. I forgot about the original New Japan show, and now it turns out we're going to be doing one on Friday. So the rest of this week is actually stacked. So yeah, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and then the start of the new week on Monday. That's sweet TWitWoW content. So for the New Japan show on Thursday, what time will we be going live, partner?
Normally I would just say 8 o'clock because we don't really have there's nothing on Thursday night, but let's say 5 p.m.
Okay. We will be going live at 5 with our New Japan coverage for tomorrow.
And then Friday it will be 8.
And then Friday it'll be 8 p.m. But we'll reiterate that aspect when we're done with the Thursday show. So guys, for tomorrow, we go live at 5. Be there. All right, guys. One more thing I want to plug now that we've gotten the schedule out of the way. Q&A. Today is May 3rd. You have until May 26th because Q&A is the last Friday of every month. And you can submit questions. I have a pinned thread on my Twitter. You can send questions there. You can DM me. You can DM Ashton. You can tweet at Ashton. You can leave a comment on this video when it's done processing. We'll get the question there. You can go to our Facebook page. Be sure to leave a like for the page if you do visit it and leave a question there. You can inbox us a question. So you have a multitude of avenues to partake in Q&A. The cap is 4 questions. So 4 questions per Q&A. And we're pretty liberal about the subject matter. Unless we tell you otherwise that no, that makes us uncomfortable or we answered it already or whatever, feel free to ask any question on any topic. I know you guys have a tendency to be creative, so I know I'm preaching to the choir at this point because this is going to be Q&A number 11. And yeah, just be sure to get your questions in, and it'll be a fun time like always. So with that said, guys, I can't think of anything else to promote or mention. So we will see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. we go live. Got sweet New Japan action. Until then, tune in and peace out.